By gun.
Just on my way to work right now. I figured I'd do an after action report of the class I took this weekend. It sucks when that happens.
This is what happens and everybody goes, I don't know why I quit working. I should look at my gun.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Steve is a fantastic guy. He's hilarious, very laid back, but you know, stern enough to get his point across when he has to. This class was a lot different than any class I've ever taken before. We actually started out cold before we shot anything. We went over the, you know, obviously the safety briefings and a little bit of lecture time, but got on the range and we started at 25 yards. All right. Most people, including myself, are not very good shots at 25 yards, especially with handguns. It kind of really surprised me. I would say about every class I've ever taken from some of the biggest guys in the industry, the furthest I've shot would probably be like 10 yards maybe. So starting out cold at 25 yards, 10 rounds, and I think we had, I think it was 60 seconds to complete 10 rounds in on a 5x7 piece of paper. And it was kind of an eye-opener. As Steve explained it, you know, we need to get out of this 0 to 3 yards bullshit. To add stress, he basically puts you against yourself, and I see this a lot, especially coming from another instructor. Generally, people are their own worst enemy when it comes to shooting. Like, you know, recoil anticipation is one of the biggest things that I see people have an issue with. Trigger control, all that kind of stuff, and that all comes from yourself. So pitting you against yourself is one of the best ways to actually induce a little bit of stress. Trying to beat your own time, stuff like that. He also pitted you up against other people in the class. So, an example, one drill we did, we shot from a low ready, X amount of rounds, I don't remember exactly how many it was, but the first person, or if you had a malfunction, you were out. The last person to have the hits, you were out, and if you ran out of ammo, you were out. During this time, I would say from 3 to 5 yards, most people actually dropped a shot at 3 yards. I mean, these people were decent shooters, like everybody there has had some experience with a gun, but just against the stress of other people and against yourself, they threw a shot. We only got back to, actually, I believe it was 10 yards. So 15, I think there was 15 people in the class. You know, by the time we got back to 10 yards, I think it was just me and maybe one other person. So that goes to show you that the way he induces stress works better than most other places I've ever trained. Most of the time people can throw stuff at me and yell at me and stuff, and you know, it doesn't really bother me.
I'm glad you approved on this.
Want me to buzz it? Yeah,
I got to cut out the light anyway. Get him out!
Actually ran my bone stock duty gun, Glock 17 with Trigicon HDs. I just ran my duty belt, nothing fancy. There was a lot of guys there that ran all sorts of crazy $3,000 Glocks. There's a couple, I think there was a 1911, couple of Smiths, you know, typical stuff that you see in a class. I did, however, get to shoot my first salient arms Glock. That was pretty neat experience. I've never messed around with red dots on guns. Where I come from, generally speaking, it's kind of trained into you, engraved into you, if you will, that you buy a factory Glock, you knock the factory sights off, you throw some good sights on it, and you're good to go. This kind of opened up a whole new world for me. Like, those $3,000 salient arms Glocks were pretty smooth gun. Steve Fisher had a fantastic way of really simplifying malfunction clearing. For the longest time, okay, you have a double feed, you rip the mag out, you rack the slide fucking 60 times, you throw a new magazine, or if that's your only magazine, you gotta retain that one, and then you insert reload. He taught us a way that makes it ridiculously easy to do so, and that's the only way I'm going to start clearing double feeds from now on. That's the only way I'm going to start training my students to clear double feeds. It worked every single time. I kept actually trying to complicate it. I would set up my own double feeds. I'd make it as complex as I possibly can, the shittiest double feed you could possibly think of, and it worked every single time. Steve is actually probably one of, if not the best and fastest shooters I've ever seen with my own two eyes. I mean, that guy at 25 yards is absolutely incredible. He definitely can practice what he preaches. And another thing I like is that he demos everything. A lot of instructors will tell you to do this, but they actually won't demo it because A, they either suck at it, or B, they don't want to make an ass of themselves. And Steve was not like that at all. I mean, he probably shot 500 rounds in this class. Overall, his Handgun Essentials 1 class was phenomenal. It really pointed out where I need a lot of work, especially shooting at distance. If you have not taken a class from Steve Fisher yet, I highly suggest you do. Not to mention his prices are fantastic. Usually I pay around $550, $600 a class. I think I paid $400 for this class, and probably the best investment I've made in my personal training in a long time. So if you haven't trained with him, go out and do so.